Hi, good evening. Welcome to our Thursday night meeting where we're going to discuss chapters 18 and 19 in the spirit of Crazy Horse. Um, we're going to ask that in general you mute yourself as we go through what's going on in the book. We will discuss some of what happened. And if you have a question, by all means, or feedback, please put it in the chat for now, and then we'll open it up if there's time after the chapter discussion for more open questions. Everybody cool with that? Yes? No? All right. So in chapters 18 and 19, Kathryn, would you be cool enough to let us know in a couple of sentences what those are all about?
Well, 18 basically is about the Marion prison and the violence done to the prisoners there and some of the lawsuits that Bobby Garcia tried to file, but he got murdered before it went through the court system. And it's also 18 is also the interview with Leonard Peltier for part of the book. 19 is also about some of the interview with Dino Butler. It's also about returning to the Black Hills, how the tribes got together and the Indian Council got together and they came in the back end of the Black Hills through the Buffalo Gap and surprised the FBI and were able to camp on the Black Hills.
Okay, anything else that we should be aware of ahead of time, or should we go ahead and start with chapter 18 then? And David and Kimberly, if you have anything that you think relates to these chapters that we should be aware of, by all means, let us know, okay? So Kathryn, what do you think is the first part of that we should talk about tonight?
Well, the first part of it that was the fact that the government had sent Standing Deer to the prison to kill Leonard. And as soon as Standing Bear met Leonard and talked to him, he realized that he was a good person, that he cared about other people. He helped other people in the prison. He helped the Indians and anybody that needed help. He also helped with the outside world, thinking about them, praying for them. He never thought about himself. And he wasn't a selfish person and still isn't a selfish person. A lot of times in chapter 18, Leonard felt like when the lawyers were trying to get the Freedom Act together and get the documentation to try and get him a retrial, he was afraid that the government was going to assassinate him. So he had to be real careful about who he talked to and who he was around. And because he said something, they put him in solitary confinement the first 2 weeks he was there. And then through all of this process with the court proceedings, they put him in solitary confinement for 30 days. And when they went to interview him, they said that he had lost so much weight. He was pasty white. He wasn't in good health, and that they were worried about him because he had been not able to even go outside and get any sunshine, that he was just so pale and weak, and that they were hoping that he would do better and that they would not put him back in solitary confinement, which they didn't. They put him back in general population. And Standing Deer became one of his friends and allies in prison, and so did Bobby Garcia. And the guards at this prison were exceptionally violent. If they didn't like you, they would pull you to a side. They called it a specific name, but the translation for it is the billy club room. And they would beat you with the billy clubs. It didn't matter whether it was one guard or multiple guards. And when you healed, they would let you back out. And if you didn't make it, it didn't matter because the guards didn't care. They were just that angry and that ugly to people in that prison. And so Bobby Garcia went to file a lawsuit with his lawyer through the prison system for the violence that the guards were afflicting on all the prisoners. And before it could go to court, they had come up with a plan. And the guards had kidnapped Garcia out of his cell and put him in another building. It's called N2. And N2 is probably one of the most violent buildings on the penitentiary grounds. And this is where the guards would beat people really bad. And it was right by the hospital. And nobody knew where Garcia was. He was missing a couple of days. And Leonard and Stan and Deer were worried about him. They were asking everybody if they had seen him, and they said no. And so one morning, they heard through the grapevine of the prison system that they found Garcia had hung himself in his prison cell in N2. Well, that's impossible because N2 had so many security cameras on it. It was a no sheet, no shoestring building. There was no sheets in Garcia's cell at all. And the guards were right across the corridor from his cell. And they demanded an autopsy and found out that they were 8 different barbiturates in Garcia's body. And they are, I reckon you would say, speculating that the guards had given Garcia this medicine, and then they put the sheet and hung him in his cell. But the reason why they looked at it as a homicide is his feet were still touching the ground. He couldn't have hung himself if his feet were touching the ground because he could stand up. And that's when they said that they went through and tested his blood and found the barbiturate. And also they had removed all the prisoners that were in the area they transferred them back to general population during this murder.
So there'd be no witnesses, basically.
No witnesses.
Yeah.
And when Leonard got wind of it, it upset him a whole lot because he really liked Bobby Garcia. And so he made arrangements to pay for his funeral and for his family to bury him on sacred ground. And that is when a lot of people saw Leonard in a different light. And the reporter that went in to talk to Leonard talked to Standing Deer first because he wanted to find out his side of the story of the government moving him from a high security prison to a minimum security prison to kill Leonard and changing his mind. And when he talked to the reporter, Standing Deer said, this could get me in a lot of trouble and possibly get me killed. But he said that once he met Leonard and talked to him, he knew that he was a kind person, gentle person. He cared about everybody, so he couldn't assassinate him. And so the reporter said that he agreed that he had talked to Leonard a couple of times and that Leonard was a soft-spoken man, tall, and that he said that he had changed his personality since he went in prison because Leonard was angry. And he said he needed to change his personality when he's talking to the reporter. So he prayed and he said he needed to lay low and be calm, regardless of how many times the guards poked him with the billy club, as he called it, poking the bear, to get a reaction out of him. He tried to stay as calm as he could because he didn't want to start anything. And then he told the reporter, it didn't mean I'm not going to fight. If somebody comes at me, I will fight. But I'm not going to be poked by the bear and start something, and then they put me back in solitary confinement where they could possibly assassinate me.
Right. So not
and to live in that kind of atmosphere is bad enough he's in prison and shouldn't be. But to live in fear and worry every time you woke up every morning, every time you went to bed, it for a normal person, it probably would drive them crazy. But Leonard, for some reason, has such a good spirit that he is able to gain strength on his own, and he controls it. And that is one of the things in the interview in chapter 18 was so amazing, that everybody that they interviewed that knew Leonard in the prison said how nice he was and how he always helped other prisoners in need. If there was a fight, he would try and break it up, or if he had to, he would assist. And some of the guards got to know Leonard, and a lot of the guards actually left the prison because they realized that what they were doing to the prisoners was not fair.
Yeah.
That beating someone just because they don't like you or you did something, it was not the way they wanted to have a job. So a lot of the good guards that were there left and went to other prisons.
Yeah, there are a couple of videos on TikTok. I've seen one from former guards, and they really not only speak up in terms of him needing to be released, but also their experience of him.
Mm-hmm.
As, you know, a man with integrity, especially in that situation.
Yeah, he definitely had a lot of integrity and still does. And I kind of see Leonard kind of like David, telling us that we need to get our inner strength for ourselves, make ourselves strong, pray about what we need to do before we actually go out and communicate anything to anybody. We have to be strong ourselves before we encounter anybody, because if we can think it, our enemy can think it. If our enemy can think it, we can too. So you have to make yourself not doubt. You have to get within yourself, and Leonard has. When he said his personality changed and he got within himself and changed, he said he felt he was a better person.
David, did you have something comment there?
After Standing Deer got out of prison, I think it was within the year he was murdered.
I did not know that till Kimberly said something right before you came on tonight. I did not realize that.
Yeah, Standing Deer was a Choctaw Indian from Oklahoma. And when he got out, he went down to Texas, and he was murdered.
That is awful, because he stood up for Leonard so much when they were together, and he knew the true Leonard, and that's why he couldn't do what he did. But I reckon the government got him when he got out.
I wouldn't be surprised. And, you know, a lot of times, well, governments, FBI agents, lawyers, attorneys, DAs, they know all kinds of people that are prisoners, that are waiting trial, that are, you know, and they can approach these people and get them to do things for them if they want. That's the fact. That's a reality, and it happens all the time.
Yeah.
Just like I think one of the main problems that Leonard's had in getting out is presidents are afraid of the FBI.
Yeah.
Because the FBI is one of their protections of being against being assassinated. They don't have to do anything but just look the other way. And also they're famous for, I forgot what the exact word for it, but they getting people to do things. And like I remember one of the things that happened in, I think it was Portland, Oregon or somewhere. They had a young guy there that allegedly was going to bomb something, you know, and it turned out the FBI had basically talked to him and coerced him and supplied him with some that wasn't real explosives, but basically set him up. And but they can do that with people who've never done anything. They can do that with people who they have on a string on charges and stuff.
So coercion.
And I think
yeah. Sorry.
With Standing Deer, that becomes a message to everybody else. That's the message they have for keeping Leonard Peltier in prison. And another thing, Bob Robidoux told more than one person that he was the actual shooter of those agents. And he even alluded to it on 60 Minutes one time, but he didn't go into detail. And he called me about 2 weeks before they found him dead, and he said he was going to come back from Spain, and he wanted me to help him put it out there. And I said, I will if that's what you really want, but I fear for your safety. And he says, I'm not worried about it. He says, I'm going to do it. And it was about 2 to 3 weeks later, they found him dead in his art studio. He had a bed where he slept there, and they said he fell out of his bed and hit his head and died. And you know, that's I don't know, when you become when you get in the way of the greed of corporations and countries and stuff, you run the risk of being assassinated. And a lot of times it isn't by like an agent or something, but they'll put stories out there and rumors about you and try to get your own people to assassinate you, like Malcolm X or any of the other people, you know. And that's just the reality of it. And you got to really be caring about what you're doing. I mean, that goes all the way back to Jesus Christ. You know, he got set up. Martin Luther King got set up. Mahatma Gandhi got set up. Joan of Arc got set up. You know, all down through history, people who stand up for what's right and the rights of the people and the poor and the downtrodden, the wealthy, the people in control, the people who manipulate and take advantage of people. They want to get rid of you. They want to, because you're bad for business. And that's just the reality of it. And they use people as examples. I mean, the churches, when the churches they basically ruled the world through Rome. The Rome and the Catholic Church were synonymous, and they invaded countries under the guise of religion. If you didn't follow what they wanted done, they would burn you at a stake or something. Accuse people of being witches and stuff, spread rumors about them. You know, the list goes on, and I'm sorry I talked too much.
No, it's all right. It's good. It's good stuff. Thank you. I really appreciate it. So Kathryn, anything else you think we should talk about in 18 or?
Well, in 18, they also, the tribal council hired a lawyer to help them sue the government over the treaties and the land dispute. And that went all the way to the Supreme Court. And they won, but they won on a monetary amount. And it was supposed to go back into the reservation and to the land. But instead, the lawyer took over $10 million for, quote, his fee. And they turned the rest of the money over to the assistant interior secretary. And they did not give any to the reservation. And the only thing that did was give the government and the oil companies and the loggers and the uranium miners to come in on the reservation. They poisoned the water. They even had a permit to take the water in the water table and use it in the process of uranium under the reservation and ruin it too. And the government didn't stop any of it. And they got more money off of the reservation from gold, that 2/3 of the gold and jewelry in the United States and around the world came out of those mines off the reservation. And I did not know that. I did not know. I thought it was mainly uranium and oil, but they had copper, they had tin, and gold were also mined. And they didn't care that they used the water to mine. They just washed whatever they wanted and just washed it right into the water that the people had to drink, bathe in. And the cancer rate on the reservations is unbelievable. But yet our government thinks they're taking care of we the people, and they're not. And the lawyer that took the money, I don't think he should have. And there's a gentleman named Trudell that didn't like it. And they were also petitioning Leonard's release during all of this. and they had one of their demonstrations outside on the White House steps. And Trudell took an upside down American flag and burned it. And when he got wind that his wife and children had been assassinated and burned in their own home, it just about broke him. And when the reporter went in to talk to all the people involved, because he talked to a lot of people on the reservation, that he only spoke a few words to him, and then he turned around and walked out, because he said they know what they did, they knew it was wrong, and I'm going to say this. He told the reporter that the government knows they did wrong, and the government will get what is coming to them, because everything goes in a circle, everything comes around. And to me, that just showed me how destructive this government can be. Sit here and burn somebody's house with their wife and children in it.
We're getting feedback from somebody there.
Somebody there that needs to mute.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yep. Sure can.
Yep.
Can you
Sure
hear me?
can.
Yes.
Yes.
You know, I really didn't read this book because I knew people, I knew the circumstances, most of them, some of those places I was there, some places I wasn't, but I knew the inside story, the behind story, the front story, and things aren't always what they seem, you know, and I wouldn't say this, but some of the residual effects of John Stradell promoting rumors about people, myself included, I have to say something. And also, in the book, it doesn't tell that later on it's a proven fact that he worked with the FBI. He testified against other people in court. He set people up. He was involved in jacketing me, and there was a hit out on me. Same time there was Anime Aquash, and he was connected to all of that at one point in one way or another. And there's a lot of stuff that people don't know, but it's a fact. He worked with the FBI, he set people up. He testified against Dennis Banks in court. It didn't work out for him, but he did a lot of those things, and that's a reality. That's the truth. And I'm not saying anything that isn't a fact and a matter of court record. So, you know, you can believe what you want, but those are facts. And
yeah, they did not put that in the book at all about Trudell.
Well, most of that stuff was after the book was written.
Oh, okay.
Came out after the book was written. And you know, it's a sad thing, and people say, well, I don't want to, I shouldn't talk about the people that are dead or something like that. Well, I'm not making a judgment call. You can be the judge of that, but those are matters of court record, and those are things that happened, and I had to deal with it myself. Leonard's had to deal with it, and Trudell was involved in jacketing Leonard also. That's a proven fact. I've read some of the transcripts. I'm aware of people he worked with and things like that. In fact, if you're ever watching that movie Thunderheart, he got that old man that came to the door to talk to Val Kilmer to say, that man David Hill is here. He said it in Sioux, but he said my name in English. He was doing stuff like that all the time, trying to jacket people, myself included. Main targets. I have something to say about that.
Well, I'm glad you did, because, you know, we're limited to whatever's published in this book. And I'm grateful you're sharing your information, because I know it can't be easy, because your life was just as affected as everybody else, if not more so. Because you're by yourself, you have family, you got to think about them also. And that's a scary thought, that people can intimidate people like that. And Trudell must not be a nice person at all. Is he still alive?
Well, I knew people that knew him real well, real closely and stuff. And he was involved in jacketing me and others. And I had to deal with several individuals that were, I guess, victim of his conversation toward me. And I don't know what all they had in mind, but they wanted to harm me, but it didn't work out well for them. But those are things we've had to deal with. And Trudell wasn't who he seemed to be. That's the reality. I even found out he projected himself as Santee Sioux, and from a member of the Trudell family told me one time his stepfather was Santee Sioux, but he was biologically a Chicano, which those people are Native American also. But a lot of people get upset when someone claims there's some tribe that they're not, but he was not Santee Sioux. He was a Mexican descent.
I wanted to say something about Dennis Banks and Russell Means. You know, they put a jacket on David, they put a jacket on Leonard. Am I muted? No, I'm not. They used the Arlo Looking Cloud trial to spread a narrative that paid Denise Comote $43,000 basically to brand Leonard with Anna Mae's death. And on TikTok, when he comes up for parole, all these little girls come out of the woodwork saying, Leonard killed Anna Mae. And I think this chapter was important because Dennis and Russell both said Leonard was not a shot caller. He was a foot soldier. And he had been in Canada for a year when Anna Mae died. There were no cell phones. He wasn't sending smoke signals ordering her death. So that is something I will be keeping in mind when these TikTok attacks start happening. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you, Don.
Thank you, Dawn. Appreciate that. But once the lawsuit went through the Supreme Court, the tribal council wanted to get back to the Black Hills. They wanted their land back. So that was their next step, was trying to get all the tribal councils together. Banks and Means, they really didn't get along perfectly all these years, but for the common goal of getting the Black Hills back, they decided to work together with the tribal council, and they chose to go in a group at one time to camp on the Black Hills. They got a permit for a 2-week stay on the Black Hills, and the tribal council said, we got 2 weeks, but we're not leaving after 2 weeks. And they noticed the show of force by the FBI, the BIA, and other soldiers walking at the entrance of the federal park there. So one of the gentlemen says, I know there's another way that we can get in and get in the Black Hills. It's the old trail that the buffaloes took and the Indians took when they were hunting the buffalo to survive. So they got everybody loaded in cars and they went through, it's called the Buffalo Gap. They went through the Buffalo Gap. They got in the Black Hill. They got on the flat lands. They started setting up tents and supplies and surprised the FBI and BIA to the point that they turned around and said, how did you get here? But they couldn't do anything about it because once they were there, they had no authority. The only authority they had was before they got into the gate. But since they were already there, they couldn't force them out. And one of the tribal council said, you know, they're not going to shoot us. Number one, we have a whole lot of support from the white population in the area. We have a lot of support from the press, and people are noticing that we are wanting our lands back, and it's just and right that we get it back. And they're not going to film this. And the chief said, not only will they not film it, now it's in color, so they can see the blood when they shoot somebody. And at Wounded Knee, it was black and white, and there wasn't camera crews there. And so they said that they're not going to do anything to us. But they surrounded the park and kept an eye out on the camp just to watch for trouble if anything happened, but it didn't. And I wanted to find out, I was trying to figure out after the 2 weeks if they stayed, but the chapter ended right there. But
I was just gonna say, what do we want to move on to chapter 19?
that is part of chapter 19.
Yeah.
And they interviewed Dino from prison, and Dino said a lot about Leonard's integrity, said a lot about some of the things that happened that were unfair, that the FBI, the goons, and the BIA did to everybody, and that he felt like they will never pay for what they did, that the government is not going to sentence anybody for any of the murders. And Dino said that he needed to go visit the grandparents of Joe's son. So they took him and he talked to the grandparents. And the grandfather said that when they got home, they saw Joe's body, but he could also see where the assassin shot him square in the forehead down below the home. And they had drug him up because his hair and clothes had leaves and sticks on it. And they staged the story in Joe's body so it would look like Joe himself had shot at them first. So they were warranted in killing him when he didn't. And he didn't have any gun on his person. And they wound up putting the jacket on him also, which he did not have at all. And that's been a key issue throughout this whole book, is the jacket he had on didn't have a bullet or a hole or anything in it that would match any of the injuries that were on Joe. And his grandfather still says that the FBI did it, and the person that they're trying to pin Joe's murder on did not do it, that it was the government and they staged it. And it upset the grandfather really bad to know that the government did that to his grandson, because he said, if they do it to him, who else are they going to do it to before we find out what peace we're going to have as a nation? And to me, that stuck out the most because he said it. We, as a nation, not just the Indians, the whole country needs to unify. We all need to be on the same page. We need to make sure we're on the same common goal of getting the rights back to the Native Americans, get their land back where it belongs. I know the uranium has poisoned the water and the water table up under the reservation. The only thing that we can do is make sure it doesn't happen again anywhere else, because there's no way you can clean uranium out of water, and you can't clean it out of soil. It's there, it's ruined forever. Just like when nuclear plants explode. The fallout is like Chernobyl. You never be able to live on that land again. And the same thing with the uranium and the cancer patients. I mean, the rate of cancer on the reservation is tremendous. I think one time Kimberly had a percentage on it, and I don't remember what it was in the first part of the book when they started mentioning the uranium. when Wounded Knee was going on, they signed the land away for the uranium rights. Yes, Kimberly.
I know I've said this before, but the reason why they were there was just, to help the traditionalists to stop the uranium drilling. And had they been successful, their cancer wouldn't be there today. And so, I mean, I think that's a really important point. I don't know what they can do about it now, but I know Sarah's saying in the chat that there's that there's still, are there still open holes, Mom, or are there actual mining still going on? Here, unmute yourself. I just was curious about that.
We can't hear you, Sarah.
There we are. Okay. It's still in operation. I mean, the crap killed Deb White Plume. That's what she died of in 2021 as cancer, or 2021.
Did we lose her?
Where did she go?
I don't know. Let me look. Yeah, I don't see her on here. She might have gotten accidentally disconnected.
David wants to say something. If you want to go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yeah, you're talking about Joe Stuntz having on a jacket. That was June the 26th. In South Dakota, June, you're not wearing jackets.
Yeah.
You know, that's another issue. And also talking about the Black Hills under a 99-year lease, which has been up for many years. And, you know, just a point of comparison, England had a 99-year lease on Taiwan. When the 99 years lease was up, they turned it back over to China. The United States had a 99-year lease from the Sioux. They have not turned it back to the Sioux people. So there you see a difference in values when they're pointing at other countries. You got three fingers pointing back at them.
Right.
And another point of interest, I hate to talk about this stuff, but it still affects us. It still causes problems today. But a lot of this stuff has come up after this book was written. Dino Butler ended up running around with John Trudell and spreading some of the same rumors and doing the same sort of thing Trudell was doing. That's a reality. That's proof. I've listened to him on YouTube before, and Leonard's had to been the victim of some of his stuff. And he talked like he was here or there, and he saw this and that, and he said he didn't even go down to the cars. He said that on YouTube. But then he wanted to say some stuff about what went on here and there, and he wasn't even there. And he was involved in jacketing people, myself included. That's a fact. It's recorded and everything. And he did some stuff with Paul Demain, who spread rumors about Leonard and myself and Dennis Banks and Russell Means and everybody they could. This government is clever. They're smart. They're the most well-funded organization and political misleading organization in the world. And you know, as indigenous people, we have limited resources, but the main thing we have is our spirit to protect this portion of Mother Earth, and we're from it. It's part of us, and you know, we'll have to deal with it. And, you know, when your time comes, it's up. But in the meantime, we'll still keep standing up for what we believe in. I hope.
And you have a lot of people behind you too, because all eyes are being opened around the country, and Biden is getting cards and letters from all of us because we mail them. Tomorrow's the big mail day, so we need to do that so we can bombard them with mail for Leonard Peltier. And the more you get into this book, the more corrupt you see this government is. And I did not realize that I'm in my 60s, I did not realize that my government was so corrupt, but it is. And it is not taught, it is not talked about, it's not put in the newspapers, it's not put on the news, and it needs to be. I wish there was a way we could get this on the news, part of it, at least, of this book, and the people involved in it, and see if we can help, and we can see if the government would at least try and take part responsibility for this. But I don't know if they ever will, because money talks, and in government, that's all you have. There's not a person that's been a president, vice president in the Senate or representative that's poor. In the beginning, yeah, but not now. Everybody's a millionaire. They get lobbyist money. They get money for from people to help them pass bills to help them. And just like Leonard, they tried to get him a new trial. And what did they do? They stuck other articles of law which totally invalidated Leonard's retrial, because they had other policies stuck under there that they tried to slide in, and it didn't work. All right, Sarah.
Okay, hon, thank you. Regarding that uranium mine, the main office that runs all that is in Chambers, Nebraska. That's where the office is located of the people that are running the mine. It's not holes, they're drilling for it. And drill bits have to be cooled, and it's just like your coal dust, okay, after a coal mine. Except that this is just a hole, it's holes. It's Cameco left a bunch of holes in the Black Hills for when mining, they're Canadian, when mining on our land for uranium. And the runoff from that crap just about killed a bunch of people. Now the EPA has been run out of there. So have people that have been reporting it. And I've got a lag, so somebody's mic is on. It's probably a Phoebe. But anyway, Alex's grandkids just took a stride to go and film that, and they had it on TikTok for about 2 nights, and immediately came down. Yeah. You know, they were taking pictures with the camera that I had sent to Deborah, who handed it down to her grandkids. And you know, this has been a fight that's been going on since 1968. We're not going to find a class action lawyer with the cojones to go and deal with that, because he'll be putting his life on the line, and his law license, and his life and his family's life, because the FBI is nothing but legalized gangsters. That's all they are. They are legalized gangsters that are backed by our government. There is zero oversight for them. You name it. I get so mad about this. I really do. That bunch of radioactive crud is still pouring into the Cheyenne River. That's affecting the entire Oglala Aquifer and the Missouri River. And you think of all the farmers that are watering their crops with that radioactive crap, that water. We're ending up with corn and soybeans and wheat and oats that they grow in the dump. They're bad. They are not fit to eat. They are dangerous to eat. You know, that's why I really think they put oatmeal in commods. You know, go ahead, David. Go ahead, David.
Gotta unmute yourself, David. Thank you.
It's not just the Lakota reservation. The Navajos have suffered the same thing in the area also, where they went in there and they did mining and polluted the water, and lots of Navajo people are getting cancers, still births and really hurting the health of the Navajo people. And the United States not doing anything about it. It's just going on and on. And I don't know. I can't say I know what the answer, but I know we have to stand up to it and say something, do something, or it just keeps going.
Yeah.
I just wanted to interject that.
So, Kimberly and Kathryn, do you want to open it up for questions that people might have for either of the chapters at this point?
Yeah, if they have any questions, sure. We'll do the
Okay.
best we can.
I don't know if anyone else is having audio problems, but it's kind of
I am a little bit, yeah.
so, but if anyone wants to unmute and ask questions, feel free to unmute.
Feel free to mute.
I think it says a lot about Leonard that they were gonna let this guy get a jail card to kill him, and he met Leonard and said, I can't do that.
I can't do that.
I think it says a lot about Leonard.
It just,
I highlighted a lot of stuff. I've been trying to reach people on their level. People do not read anymore, so I've been drawing cartoons and putting them on Twitter. And people like them. So there's a lot of material in this chapter that I'm gonna be using for something. But everybody write letters tomorrow. Get your dog to put a pop in on the letter. Let's bombard the White House with letters, please.
Bombard the White House with letters, please.
Okay, thank you. David, did you have something?
Okay, thank you. David, do you have something?
Am I muted or unmuted?
You're unmuted. Oh, now you're muted. You gotta unmute, David. There we go.
About
There we go.
Leonard and Dennis and some of us that worked together during that time period in South Dakota. Some people up there approached Dennis and Leonard and myself. They wanted us to kill Dick Wilson. And we made it clear that we were not there to fight with other Indian people. And if we disagreed with their politics, if we didn't like them, we would confront those we had to confront. And it just, we weren't there to kill anybody. We told them, if you want them dead, you do it. You take care of it, because years from now, if something happens, we say, no, it wasn't, there was no problem on Pine Ridge. It was just outside agitators, you know. And I'm glad we chose that path, because years later, everybody's taking a double look at things, and things aren't always how we look at them from a historical point of view or something. If you lived in it, saw it, and you were there, people thought about it, prayed about it, did what they had to do to defend themselves. You know, there's a lot of really good speakers. There were people there around, but there were a lot of good speakers, but the people who really made a difference was people like Leonard Peltier. You know, before the shootout, we were working on putting together a alcoholism recovery program, a youth program, planning community gardens and stuff like that, and trying to repair some old buildings where people could live in them. And you know, the boots on the ground person is the one that makes the difference. The one who picks up the hammer, builds something, is the one that makes the difference, not the one who just talks about it. And Leonard was one of those people who made a difference. Wherever he went, he helped people. He did mechanic work, he did carpentry work, he planted gardens, you know, and he was a compassionate person. And he also had a good sense of humor. He's always laughing and joking. And you know, if you're going to be in any kind of situation, good or bad, you'd want Leonard Peltier next to you. I hope.
Was there anything in either chapter that you found particularly
Is there anything-
interesting, didn't understand, or would like to talk about more?
And or would like to talk about more?
No?
Are you asking me or someone else?
Actually, I'm asking the group in general.
Actually, I'm asking,
But I think everybody is pretty much listening at this.
but I think everybody is pretty much listening at this point.
Well, you know, the challenges that face the people in the area are still there today. You know, and you've got a drain of educated people and talented people off of, you know, a drain of people leaving the reservation because, you know, the economy is bad, housing situation is bad, educational level situations is bad, and then just right across, not far away, is the Black Hills, which they legally own. That is part of their homeland, and it's invaded, it's occupied, and the treaty is the lease is up. And this nation is not honoring its word. It's not honoring the treaties it made with a sovereign nation of the Lakota people. And there's treaties elsewhere that they're not honoring, where they've taken land and stuff. And a lot of times people don't want to, they don't want to confront the truth, because a lot of times it's the truth in the face of people that exist today, people who sometimes have a good public view of them, but the reality of their actions is totally different. Just like Cain was really well thought of as some kind of a political leader, but he ran a rider on a defense bill or something through Congress, and got it signed up for a company out of Australia to put a copper mine in the Apache sacred area. But nobody wants to say that about McCain, but that's what McCain did. And they do things like that, you know. And Bill Clinton, he was going to free Leonard Peltier, but the FBI confronted him, and he changed his mind. The judge at Leonard's trial was considered a racist of some sort and whatever, but the FBI confronted him and made sure that's what position he took. The Eighth Circuit Court of Appeals, Haney, who was reviewing Leonard's bid for a retrial or something, and he said that the FBI was equally responsible, and had the information wrongfully withheld from his trial been made available, that he probably would not have been convicted. But the FBI confronted him, and he put out a story. He tried to cover himself as much as possible, but he said no. And those things are still happening. People have to be aware, and it's America and the American people and justice and the health of the earth is in survival mode right now. And you could not do nothing. You could just do the right thing, be nice to everybody, work your job and whatever. Nobody will ever bother you. Or chances are you won't, but you may fall victim to those who will take advantage of everybody. But when you really get in trouble is when you start trying to right what's wrong. If you just do what's right, your chances of being bothered is minimal. But when you start trying to right what's wrong, you become a target. That's reality. That's the truth. It's been that way all down through history. So you can just choose where you want to stand. So
Edward, did you have a question you'd like to ask?
Yeah, sure. It's for David.
Sure. It's for David.
How does Leonard maybe know something that
does
the
Leonard
FBI
maybe know-
is worried about?
Well, he knows he's not guilty. That's for one thing. But I don't know particularly what that would be. You know, sometimes you might know something that
David must have froze.
Yeah, looks like it. Do we still have,
May I say something or go ahead, Dawn? I'd like to say something too.
They just, if they let him go, they're gonna have to admit they were wrong, and the FBI is not wrong about anything ever. Go ahead, Kim.
I also think that, as OSHA pointed out at one of our meetings here, that he sets an example, like this is what can happen to you if you mess with us, you know. So holding him there is like I believe OSHA said it's like putting the person in the head on the stake or whatever it was that they would do to intimidate people.
mhm.
So like look, so maybe not so much something that he knows, but just as an example of a threat.
More like a scapegoat and or an example? Is that what you're saying?
Or just like hey, like American Indian people, and I do say Indian, by the way. It's like this is what will happen to you if you stand up against our government. You know, it's an example of what could happen to us, intimidation. And I mean, that's just, I mean, OSHA made that point, and I kind of feel it's an accurate point. I mean, why else wouldn't they have let him out? Look at all of this stuff. I mean, it's not only just one constitutional violation, it literally is 9 pages of typed violations. And one of those is enough to get anyone out. It's disheartening, but it's 8 o'clock now, everyone. This was kind of I guess the cold reality of all of it is kind of depressing, but, and by the way, everyone, please send out those letters tomorrow because
Yes.
Leonard has been he was in, they're short of staff. And also maybe send him a letter too and let him know that we're still out here thinking about him and fighting for his freedom. And they put him in lockdown, I think it was on the 3rd. And Dawn talked to him this morning, but unmute yourself, Dawn. And he told me he emailed me and said that they were putting him back on lockdown. He doesn't know why. I think it's because of short staffing, but Dawn can probably tell you a little bit better.
What they're doing is, I found out that Washington DC keeps track of federal prisons all across the country because they don't have one of their own. They are all on lockdown because of COVID red alert. And the reason they are on red alert is less than half the guards are vaccinated. So the inmates are being punished for the guards' behavior is basically what it comes down to.
And as we know, when Leonard got COVID last time, they don't wear masks either. So can you imagine being locked in a prison, like unjustly for all of these years, and then they expose you to COVID too, and you have nothing you can do.
The guards bring it in.
Yeah, the guards bring it in, and they don't wear masks. They don't get vaccinated. They don't, like, I don't know. It's the biggest miscarriage of justice that this country has ever seen, and that more people aren't standing up for that. Even you don't even have to be Indian, just believe in humanity and in treating and the Constitution. If you're a constitutionalist, where are you? Like, seriously, people, please stand up for Leonard, learn his story. Share the videos of our book clubs with people, tell people and write him a letter and let him know that we still care.
Yeah, and the information for that, you know, if you want to contact the White House, write a letter, especially if you want to write a letter to Leonard Peltier. If you go to the book club page on Facebook, I assume, and I'm pretty sure it's there on Twitter too, Kimberly, and the information you need specifically, because if you write him a letter, you know, it has to be in white paper, white envelope and all that. So all those parameters are there so that we can actually get those to the White House and to Leonard.
And I have it pinned on the book club has a TikTok, everyone. It's Katiwakua book club on TikTok, and I have it pinned at the top of that, where how to write Leonard and how to write the White House. And it's also pinned on the Twitter account too. You can click right there and also email directly. But when you do write him, like she said, no perfume, no stickers, no glitter, white paper, white envelope, so they'll send it back. No cards.
Yeah.
Well, David's trying to get back in. I accepted it, but I don't see him on the screen.
Well, he disappeared from the waiting room, so
Yeah.
maybe he's on his way in. So for those of you who are looking for the address, go to the Facebook page, the Twitter page, And you said, I think it was also pinned on the, did you say TikTok? Kimberly?
I'll also have it on his website
Okay,
along with a sample letter to the president.
yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, you can find that there.
And I put it in the chat here for everybody. It's www.whitehouse.gov/contact, and you can email 24/7. You can send more than one email a day, and also 202-456-1111.
Thank you. Thank
And
you.
let's see if David can finish what he was trying to say.
I don't see him coming
Yeah,
in.
there you go.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know why the phone went dead and I had to turn it all back on and log back in. I get Homeland Security's at work, I guess. And I'm just gonna say that I know they keep track of me and stuff, and at the airport, they told me I was on the watch list. So, having said that, but I don't know what Leonard would have that the FBI would be so leery of, but I know he knows that they lied at his trial, they manufactured evidence at his trial, they coerced witnesses into lying, they intimidated jurors, they intimidated the judge. They, I don't know if I said manufactured evidence, they did all of that stuff. And when you say intimidated jurors, you wonder how they do that. Well, when they would bus them from the place where they're staying to the courthouse, they would put darken out the windows of the bus so that make them feel like they possibly could be assassinated or something. They did everything they could, and it wasn't like that at the trial at Bob and Dino's trial. So they do what they can do, and it's a sad reality. And I wish I'm sure there are agents that have good moral beliefs and stuff like that, and they need to stand up against the ones who don't. And I heard one guy say one day, he said 96% of the FBI give the other 2% a bad reputation. That might be true. I don't know.
Wow.
But the reality is that there's good people everywhere, but good people in this day and age don't speak up enough, and I don't know if they're in the minority or not. Other people just want to live and let live. Our native cultures were live and let live cultures. We weren't running around trying to conquer each other, fighting over gold and silver and stuff like that. We didn't have that kind of lifestyle. We didn't have money. We had a live and let live culture that was based on life science, not on war science. And before anybody came over here, we had no communicable diseases. We had medicines that would take care of whatever our problems were. And, we basically lived in harmony with our environment. We didn't destroy it. And there's nothing that's come over from Europe that has made this a better place. That's the reality of it. Anyway, that's all I got to say.
Thank you,
Well,
David.
thank you, David.
Thank you, David. Thank you,
Thank
Kim.
you.
Okay.
Guys later.
All right. Thanks very much. And hopefully we'll see you next week.
And next week is chapter 20 and the epilogue. But no, excuse me, I apologize. Next week is we have a special guest, Nick Juno.
Yes.
He is a musician that actually wrote a song about Leonard. So he's going to be here next week. So we're going to have an interesting meeting next week. Maybe he'll play Leonard's song for us. We're
Yes.
hoping.
He's
Very
going
And,
to.
and we're down to the last 3 chapters of this book. And then we decided that we were going to go on and read, what was it, Kimberly? We're going to read Leonard's book.
Oh, okay. That would be Prison Writings. My Life is My Sundowns. That'll be kind of cool to see a. And then also everyone plant a tree, a fruit bearing tree, because Leonard wants us to promote food forest movement for the betterment of Mother Earth and for future generations.
And I would like to thank Sarah for her seed exchange. Thank you so much for the vegetable seeds. We will plant them.
Okay, also, if anybody, I have information for grants. If anybody wants to apply for them, I can lead you in the right direction. Someone pointed it to me in the direction from Twitter where you can get grants for planting orchards. And maybe we could do that in Leonard's name in his honor.
Right.
So, okay. Thank you all for coming. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Take
Bye,
care.
y'all.
Bye. See you.
Bye-bye.
Good
next
night,
month.
everyone. Good night.
Don't shy.
Mhm.